So, as the political heat inside the PDP continues to soar, the Reconciliation Committee, headed by the former Senate President Bukola Saraki, attempts to negotiate a shaky ceasefire between the warring groups in the party. It's a defining moment, even as Senator Saraki and his committee members hope that the worst is over, but knowing there could be worse to come. And because it is the PDP, if the party does fail, it won't be just an earth tremor in Nigerian politics, it'll be an earthquake. So why does the PDP matter so much? Well, at one stage, it was the biggest political party in Africa, the party that brought the mobile phone to Nigeria, fundamentally reformed the banking system, and put Nigeria's footprint in space with the launch of sub-Saharan Africa's first Earth satellite in 2003. Both Nollywood and Afrobeats reached maturity under the encouragement and support of the PDP. And it was also under the PDP's umbrella that Nigeria ushered itself back into democracy in 1999, after decades of military rule. So politically, economically, and socio-culturally, the PDP has had the greatest impact of any political organization in this country since 1999, which is why the internal crisis that it's been facing has become such a huge domestic political event with such a bright spotlight on it. Everything the party used to be is embodied in the very DNA of this country. So how can the shape and form of this great political institution be restored before it is too late? Well, for more on this, I'm suitably delighted to say that I'm joined now in the studio by the former Senate President and former Governor of Kwara State, Senator Bukola Saraki, in the first interview he's granted in the last 3 years. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for choosing Arise.
Thank you, Charles.
To speak to Nigerians about things that concern them quite a lot.
Sure.
One of them, of course, let me start on the other side of the Mason-Dixon line. I wonder what your reaction is to the news that emerged earlier today that the national chairman of the APC, Umar Ganduje, appears to have resigned or has been forced to resign.
Well, as you say, we're not sure what the right position is, whether he has resigned or appears to resign. But either way, clearly something is going on there.
Yeah.
Clearly there's some minor, mild, major upheaval going there. A national chairman of a ruling party is not ever rumored to resign unless there's some trouble. So that also reflects the fact that, what we said, all the parties are all having their own challenges at this time.
Does that give you some consolation then?
Not consolation per se, it just reaffirms the message some of us have been saying that yes, PDP is having its challenges, and so are other parties. PDP probably is more reported, less than others. But the fact that national chairman is being contemplated or rumored to resign, then definitely there's trouble in the team there.
Right.
We should keep an eye on that.
And what about the news that broke yesterday suggesting that, I mean, this directly affects your party, that Governor Fubara of Rivers State has reconciled with Nyesom Wike after the president intervened again? I mean, what's your reaction to that, and how significant is it, either in a positive or in a negative way?
Well, we really didn't know the details of that reconciliation. I think the details will determine how it affects positively or negatively. I guess for the people of Rivers State, most is positive to the fact that there's reconciliation. But how it affects the political parties, I think will come in the details of what that is about.
Right, and I was going to ask you, what do you think they agreed on to achieve this peace? But you've kind of answered that. But I'm wondering if the PDP is possibly looking at another defection to the APC.
Well, at this time, I said before in my just open discussions that PDP would likely see, one or two more defections And we should prepare ourselves for that. There is a possibility.
You mean including Fubara?
Maybe or maybe not. Maybe
Yeah.
Fubara, maybe others. I said, as I speak to some of our colleagues, as we sit down and plan and strategize, we say, look, the worst is not yet. We haven't seen the worst of the defections for PDP. We'll probably see maybe one or two governors still defect. We might see some senators defect. But the long-term perspective for us, when you go around the country, the state chapters, the local government chapters, the party is still very strong on the grassroots. In some areas in the country, they're not even aware of what is happening at, suppose say, our level or in Abuja. And so the reaction we've seen at the grassroots, it gives us a lot of encouragement. But what we need to do is, let us get to the bottom and then start to build.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's not just happening in Abuja, though, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the entire state, apparatus of the PDP defecting, for example, from Delta State, and then you look at,
Yeah, what I mean by that is
they're not, those people are at the grassroots.
No, they're not crises
well.
they're not crises based on instability in Delta state chapters. That's what I
Right.
mean. There are things that are led based on decisions taken by the leaders. That's the
Right.
point I'm making. That it is not that the foundation is weak in those places. Like if you see people defect in a particular state because there's crisis in that state, and the members of the state don't want to work together anymore. Where you're seeing defections based on leaders, for what reason, best known to them, it's top down, not, and that's why you're seeing in some states, the leaders are saying we're going,
Yeah.
and you're seeing some of the grassroots members say, look, I've been PDP all my life. I've been PDP for 10, 20 years. I don't understand what you're saying. But out of the politics that there's deference to our leaders, some are going. But you're still hearing rumblings where people say, look, our leaders want us to go. Why? We've been PDP, or PDP has done so much for us in our state. As you said, PDP has impacted on the economy. PDP has impacted on some of the things we have seen. So I don't know why we're going, but there are leaders. So we go. That's what I mean by it is top, bottom, as opposed to bottom up.
Well, you have a point there, although to some extent, some would say considerable extent, a lot of the people who are defecting en masse. I mean, they tend to be the majority, the defectors, and then those who stay back are in the minority.
As of today, as you all know, we're 2 years, still a long way before election.
Do you expect them to defect back to the PDP?
Might not be probably defect, but there's still some things that are going to happen in a lot of the states before then.
Right.
That's our view, and that's why for some of us, this happening early in PDP is an advantage. If we're lucky that this is not happening, let's say late 2026, we will not even have had time to recover, regroup. We have 2 years to election, just under 2 years to election, and we're lucky to have that. And I think we are with a lot of commitment and a lot of understanding for us to understand that, look, it is not a lost cause. A party of over 26 years of history, who has been around, as you said, largest party. Yes, we will definitely have low times like this. All over the world, when you study political histories, political parties go through periods like this. They lose 2 elections back to back, and people begin to question the party. But people don't abandon the party.
But that's what they're doing.
Yeah. So, but that's some of them say, no, it's not time for us to abandon. Or people say, oh, PDP is dead. No, it's not. We are the people that need to work hard and rebuild. It is not impossible. History has shown political parties have come up from having those kind of challenges. And when you're in opposition, it's more difficult because there's no command and control. There's no president. There's no government. So it's first among equals, where truly you have to sit down and give and take, as opposed to a ruling party where the president is still in the party and can say, this is what I want. So you tend to find out that those crises, you don't see them erupt as much as you see in a place like an opposition party. So to me, I strongly believe, and that's a view we're taking across to our members. Yes, it looks tough. It is doable. We just have to take those steps one by one to rebuild the party. I'm not going to give up, and I think I speak for a lot of members of my committee, a lot of leaders we talk to. We don't want to give up early. We don't want to take the attitude that just dump the party because, yes, there are challenges, but that's not the way to go about it.
Well, I mean, you are to be commended for sticking with the party and, in fact, becoming the fulcrum around which reconciliation is being attempted. But, I mean, a lot of people would say that the PDP has never really recovered from the shock of that loss of the presidential election in 2015.
Probably. But I think that we've had 2 elections after that we've not done too badly on. If you look at the 2019 election and the last one of the 2023 elections, now easily, I think that 2023 election, we lost that election, not that APC won that election. Because if you look at either the Labour Party or the NNPP, that is PDP.
But that's the problem.
So what are the
divisions within the PDP are really giving you, I mean, you're losing politically because of it. So if you don't do something about if it continues, it's going to be a disaster for you going forward.
That is true. But I think we've all come to realize that we need to rebuild. We need to, because we're the only truly strong opposition party. Those who are leaving maybe because they have given up earlier, not because they think that PDP doesn't have anything to offer. So our view is that, look, let us sit back. Let us first accept that PDP is the true alternative opposition party. And then what are those challenges, and we make room for those challenges.
Yeah, but how long does it take before that very sensible point that you're making here gets into the heads of the people in your party? Because, I mean, we know, for example, it's like every time there's a new crisis, just recently, a group within the PDP National Working Committee is insisting that the National Executive Committee meeting, much talked about, will proceed as scheduled on Monday, this coming Monday, contradicting the announcement by the acting national chairman, Umar Damagum, that the meeting has been postponed, and creating another crisis, in addition to the layers of sedimented crisis that you've got. I mean, let's start with that. Where do things stand at the moment?
Be rest assured that we will have a meeting of all the members of the party, right? We'll have an expanded PDP meeting of stakeholders. Some of the issues we find ourselves are not by our design. That we are trying to ensure that we strictly comply with the laws, the constitution, and the guidelines of our regulatory bodies. And in doing that, we will try and make sure the right thing is done. We will have a meeting. Since all those different announcements you saw, right? We've met last night. We've spoken to a few people who have agreed that it was more of a knee-jerk reaction to the fact that they thought maybe there was lack of inclusion. But the basic principles were mostly on board that we must avoid anything that does not allow the party to be able to present candidates in 2027. That's the fundamental thing.
Right.
So what you saw, the outburst you saw last 2 days, right? You're going to find out by Monday, we're going to have resolved that. Be rest assured about that.
So you haven't actually resolved it yet?
No, we have got commitments.
Right.
We've explained the reasons why some of those decisions were taken. And some of those decisions were taken based on where we find ourselves, right? If you're for a lie, I'm sure you've been following up what has been happening on the issue of the secretary of the party.
I was going to come to that because I was going to ask you to clarify for us which position is the legal and correct one, because the acting chairman says there won't be a NEC meeting because you have to give the Electoral Commission, INEC, 21 days to hold such a meeting. But others in the working committee said that because the meeting on Monday is a postponed NEC meeting, it is legally okay for it to take place. And the way they want to get around the legal issues is not to discuss the issue of the national secretary, because that is an elective office and you'd have to give INEC 21 days if you had to do that. Is that essentially the norm?
No, no. We wrote a letter, the chairman wrote a letter to INEC informing them that we're going to be having a meeting on the 30th, which was signed by the chairman. INEC came back and said that that does not meet the requirement.
Yeah, because it wasn't signed by the secretary.
Signed by the secretary.
Right.
And as such, as far as they're concerned, any decision that is taken in that kind of meeting is non-binding and probably is non-void.
Right.
And the purpose of that meeting, one of the purposes of the meeting was, one, to discuss the convention we want to do, to make certain appointments and ratification of members of committee. Those are very, very important decisions. And we have to be careful that when we take them, the forum that takes them is right by law, so that we don't stay a faulty foundation that later haunt us when we get to convention.
Indeed.
So based on that, the thinking by most is that, look, why go and do a NEC meeting that is faulty from the way it was initiated? Now, some were of the opinion that no, only the chairman can sign, but INEC, who's our regulator, has written to us, not hearsay, to say. So the advice, some of us said, listen, if that's the case, let's still hold the meeting on Monday, call it an expanded PDP meeting and discuss the issues, and then be able to call a NEC and ensure that this time we do it properly.
Right, so it's not going to be a NEC on Monday, it's going to be a caucus.
That is what is being proposed.
Right.
It should be a caucus. So that we're all trying to just be guided by the law, by the principles of how we will not run into the booby trap. Our primary focus, and it's important I emphasize this, is that we are looking what happens in 2027. We've seen the experiences, like what happened in Plateau State, where people won election, but because of problem of the party, they got thrown out. So we're trying to make sure we avoid that. All the other opposition parties, be it Labour, be it NNPP, have factions. And you see a lot of candidates, they call us and say, sir, people are telling us that if you run on PDP, who is going to sign your form? Are you sure after the primaries? And most politicians want a platform that is stability. So that is why we're trying to be on part of caution, just be sure that we do it properly. In the process of doing that, it might appear sometimes as if we're bending backwards or we're not being firm enough. It's not about individual interest now. What is paramount is the interest of the party that ensures that we are not subject to litigations that would jeopardize our aspirants who have interests. And that is key in everything that we're trying to do.
And of course, you and the I'm assuming that 7-man committee is still there. I mean, you and that 7-man committee you head were set up to ensure a peaceful NEC meeting and national convention. I mean, this is far from peaceful and harmonious, you know. So in that regard, would it be fair to say that your reconciliation efforts so far have hit a brick wall?
No, it hasn't. These are the problems that existed. Let's go back. We want to have a smooth convention. But before we can have a smooth convention, we've got to have NEC. Before we can have NEC, we've got to first agree who is our secretary. So these are three things we need to tackle. The issue of the secretary has been lingering for ages. It didn't start today, but we need to now take it head on. Now, unfortunately, over the time, people have taken positions on where they stand on this issue. Now, we've said, look, there's no interest here. We just got to be guided by what is acceptable by law. The Supreme Court ruled on it, but the Supreme Court's ruling did not help it either way. It created more confusion. And then we said, okay, fine, let us discuss with the regulator. Now, prior to the last week, there were informal discussions where people said, look, this is what INEC is saying. And some people said, well, we believe what INEC is saying informally, which is we recognize the existing secretary as Sam Ayang. Some people said, no. We can't go by informal. No. If we can have a meeting with INEC and INEC can show direction or advice or clarity, we will accept at that and move ahead. And that's what led to the meeting you saw between the party and INEC. And I must commend INEC, because INEC could easily have decided to say, listen, we leave you with your problem. And that will have created more problem for PDP. But that meeting helped tremendously, because a lot of people who thought, look, this was being orchestrated, or those who held the position that Sam Wade had an agenda, we went to INEC. And we made sure that those that went to INEC were represented by all the different groups. The governors forum had 4 out of their governors. The National Assembly brought the leaders of the 2 caucuses. We had the secretary of the BOT. We had members of my committee. We had some members of NWC. So it was a well-spread cross-section of leaders of the party. And then we met with INEC. And leaving that meeting with INEC, at the end of the day, INEC says you can do what you want to do. But ours is to tell you what we accept and what is our own view. We left that meeting, and I will say out of, I think we're 10, 9 of us all accepted that clearly INEC was telling us, as far as they're concerned, the person that they see as the secretary as of today is Senator Sam Anyanwu. If you want to do anything else, fine, but as far as today it is. So any communication that doesn't hold his name is ineffective. Now, coming back, we now have to come back and say, look, based on where we find ourselves, what do we do?
Yeah.
This EXCO has maximum 3 or 4 months to convention. What do we do? Do we damn a regulator and say, you know, you can't tell us, which we're going to do what we want to do? Or do we tread on part of caution because we're trying to protect future aspirants who want to contest?
And presumably you're advising them to do the latter.
And that was when we all met. Majority of us concluded that that is the safest thing. That is the most responsible thing. But that does not mean there will not be emotions.
But why then isn't he signing the letter? I mean, why didn't he sign the letter, the information letter that went to INEC? Or that came before you people?
That came, that came before.
Right.
Because, because don't forget, until this point, we had not accepted, or none had not accepted that he's secretary. That was what led to the meeting in
so you're starting the process of reconciliation.
We're starting the process of doing the right thing. So if we can address the issue of the secretary, then we can go to NEC. Then once we go to NEC, then we can go to convention. And then hopefully at convention, we'll have a newly elected executive. Once we can achieve that, we will significantly have, now there would be repercussions along the way because of people's feelings, and that's what we need to manage. And that's the role people like us have to play.
Well, I think people will be encouraged by hearing what you're saying now, because in the public mind, the PDP seems to be precipitously plunging itself into destruction. And I mean, you know, everybody keeps saying, how has it come to this for the PDP? But it does appear as though there are some sober minds within the party.
I can assure you that.
Presumably yourself leading the reconciliation committee that's starting to think in the right direction. And so those who think that the party has gone completely mad and is doing all sorts of things that it shouldn't do, including extra-legal stuff, things that are extra-legal to its constitution, should hold their horses and watch your space.
They should, because hopefully if we can tackle these 3 issues, tackle the issue of the secretary, move on to the issue of the NEC, and then move on to convention. If we can do those 3 steps and then do a proper convention, we'll have resolved majority of our problems.
Well, you don't sound very confident.
I'm confident. I'm confident we can do it. Because
you're saying if we can do it.
No, I'll say that because I'm being cautious. Because as somebody who's trying to reconcile people, I don't want to be arrogant in saying that it's a done deal. Because you're dealing with people's feelings. Sometimes in politics, it's not the reality. It's sometimes how it is presented. What has happened here is that over the time, people have taken strong positions on secretary. For example, the Southeast Caucus, which is a strong caucus in the party, strong member of the family. You can't just disregard them. You can't just tell them to just, do whatever. We must respect them. They have taken a position that we don't want Senator Sam Ayo. But the reality is, it's not ours. If it was ours that easy, I'm sure we would consider them. But the reality on ground, so we have to talk to them. We have to appease them as much as possible to carry everybody along. That is why I'm being cautious as somebody who is not, the decision is not just mine. It has to be everybody.
You're being the diplomat.
I have to be.
Yeah, but you do know, of course, I mean, the hard, brutal fact is that if the PDP, in spite of your impressive diplomacy, if the PDP is not able to steer itself
It will, Charles.
on the right course, well, I'm using the same word
Sure.
you use,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the PDP is not able to steer itself on the right course, and the PDP is the biggest opposition party in Nigeria, then it looks inevitable, does it not, that Nigeria is lurching towards a one-party state?
I agree with you, and that is why we're working day and night to make sure it doesn't happen. Because it's not good for PDP, neither is it good for the country, and as such, all of us must make sure, and that is why they appeal, some of us are appealing to those who have already given up, to say, hold your horses, just wait. Let us tackle these problems. It's not unsurmountable, because the consequences, not just for PDP, but for the nation, not having a strong opposition. I mean, the tenements of a good democracy is a strong opposition. And it must be the interest of everybody to ensure that survives. Not only even those of you in the media, and everybody, to see that we must all play a role, not to instigate and ensure that we do not succeed. Our success is Nigeria's success. I mean, if I put it,
Well, it's not up to us.
It's up to us. Yeah,
you.
but no. But
I mean,
sometimes when I say that,
we're watching
no. So some of you watch, but some of us, in where you present some of the stories, for that helps. I'm not saying arise, but I'm saying that doesn't help, and it's because, as you rightly said, that survival of PDP is key for our democracy, and I'm confident that tempers and sentiments are beginning to calm down. We're talking to ourselves, and we're saying this problem is not partly totally ours. And some of the decisions we take, you might not like it because that's the position, but it's where we find ourselves. And we all agree that we want a party that has a stable platform for aspirants to contest in 2026. If we don't do that, then what is the hope of political? And everybody agrees that. So if
and are people like Nyesom Wike aboard with what you're saying? Because a lot of people see him as the loose cannon within the sort of the PDP.
Well, as I said, my role is to ensure that everybody in the party works hard to get together to take us to where we need to go. You will respect the fact that somebody who is trying to reconcile, I will not in any way watch the comments of either what's apportion blames here and there. That's not going to help us. What's going to help us now? And I think everybody is committed to ensuring that PDP survives, including Wike, including
the
governors.
Is supporting the president, and the president is your political opponent. I mean, the two are irreconcilable. I
don't think that what is key is reconciliation of the PDP. Let's do that first. And I think the result will be seen on the action. What is the action? Will we resolve the issue of secretary? Will we go to NEC or will we go to convention? That is my brief. My brief is to ensure those three things. And I believe we can still do that with other problems of the party.
But the problem is that you're all of you, with all due respect, seem to be ignoring a major spanner in the works of your party. Because Wike is a major spanner in the works.
We're not ignoring the issues, but there are bigger issues that we need to address now.
What's bigger than that?
If we don't, right, I'll tell you, if we form factions, and at the end of the day, we cannot allow our candidates to contest the election, then we've lost. Let me give you an example.
Yeah, but he's leading a big faction.
Let me give you an
that
example.
Opposes your party winning the presidency.
You're even talking about presidency. Let me tell you what's happening right now. We had that problem. We're nearly in Anambra, very close to not having candidates for the election. FCT primaries, we're also probably, that's one of the stuff we're battling now. People are decamping. They're decamping to say, look, we think the party would not have a platform for me to contest election on. Assure me that I can contest election on PDP and I'll stay in PDP. That's the primary focus now that we must address.
Yeah, but don't you think that Nyesom Wike, if he's pledging support to the president and essentially has one foot in the APC, I mean, he would be saying to those people that you're talking about, come over to the APC and support the president.
No. Those people are not talking about supporting the president. A chap wants to be senator. A chap wants to be member of House of Rep. He wants to run on PDP. He's saying that PDP, with your crisis, not having a secretary, I don't know whether if I finish my primaries, I'm going to have a platform to run on. So they want a party that is stable. Charles, we will address our problems. We have to take our problems step by step.
And you want to get your brief through.
My brief
first.
is clearly, let's first address the issue of secretary. Let's address the issue of having a NEC. Let's address the issue of having a convention. I am confident that by the time we do that, all the numerous issues that you're seeing will significantly reduce.
Right. Okay. Well, let me ask you this beyond your heading that committee, the Reconciliation Committee. Let me ask you this as someone who's achieved a lot as a Nigerian politician and certainly as a member of the PDP. You've been a two-term governor, you've been president of the Senate. I mean, are there any plans at all for a new generation of PDP leaders? Because a lot of people are wondering why there aren't any stellar quality politicians who are coming through to become the next generation of PDP leaders, and why we keep seeing these quarrelsome fogies, if you don't mind my referring to the old fogies, who are tearing the party apart.
Well, that's the problem across the whole political landscape, not only in our party.
Yeah, but we want you to. I'm going
to address that, and one of the issues that we need to do is put that as part of the agenda. For example, now we have convention coming up. We must try and encourage younger people to participate in new faces. The system that we're running across the political landscape does not allow that. Maybe also an opportunity is coming up with our convention for us to encourage to see, for example, we had made a recommendation a long time ago, like youth positions across the states. If you look at it, in some places you see 50-year-olds, youth leaders in state chapters. You see that we've made a recommendation to the party that, listen, next convention we have, let us try and ensure that those youth positions are truly youth positions. Let's try and ensure that women are not just women leaders. You see a state exco and the only position you say woman is a woman leader of the party. You don't see them in any of the positions. Those are recommendations that we've made, and those are the kind of reforms that we're trying to put across. But unfortunately, the noise of this other noise has overshadowed that. And I'm very confident that those recommendations also are stuff we're going to put forward at this convention coming up. Let us bring out some of these. If you have more youth taking those positions, you have more women taking more positions. So out of 15 members in a state school or even at the national, the woman is not just a woman leader, then some of those things you're talking about, new people will come to play.
Finish with
and those are the kind of suggestions and reforms. Even the recommendations already there. And that's why I'm saying that the convention gives us an opportunity for that rebirth. It gives us an opportunity for us to bring in those kind of leaders.
But I mean, you do know, don't you, that this series of internal crises is alienating the public that was once very loyal to the PDP, and they just don't want to analyze fights between chieftains within the party, Wike versus Makinde versus, whoever else. I mean, and what you may need now are those fresh youngish politicians, and you're youngish yourself. I mean, so I'm not sort of eliminating you from that group, who connect with people and who show that they understand the problems the people are facing and what they're going through in today's APC-led Nigeria. I mean, that's an opportunity for you, isn't it?
Definitely it is. The truth is that I am confident that speaking to a lot of people who have been speaking within the party who believe in the process that we're taking, also believe that, listen, those that want to leave, let them leave. So that those that stay, we know how many of us will stay, and we start to rebuild. Maybe it's an opportunity, a blessing in disguise that, okay, fine, you know what, where are the low? You know, we've lost people. Those who are staying, clearly they're staying, they're very committed. Then we start to now say, listen, this is where we are. Let's start building for the future. And that includes some of the things that we're talking about. And that's where I stand. And I'm not the only one. A few of those who are on this page say, listen, let us rebuild this party. Let's use this opportunity to start to rebuild for the future.
Right, but I mean, I'm not trying to jump the gun. We've got less than 2 minutes left, and it's been brilliant talking with you, I have to say. But I mean, are you thinking of who the next presidential candidate is going to be?
You see, this is
because you must be thinking ahead.
This is exactly. We're thinking to ensure that we have a credible, a serious candidate. But Charles, no serious candidate would contest unless we address this issue of the platform. And that is why we are appealing to the Lord. Don't let us give any excuse that we're in litigation, that we're in faction. We have avoided, despite all this noise about PDP, we're the only opposition party so far, major opposition party, that has not been split into factions. If you were running on Labour or running on NDP, you don't even know which faction to go to. We've avoided that, despite all the noise. And so, because we're looking ahead and say, if we want a serious gubernatorial candidate or a serious presidential candidate, he's going to check, is that party, can I go to that party and contest and be sure? And that is what I'm saying. That's the ball we almost keep an eye on. These issues are secondary. The major issue now is to enable that PDP is a platform that enables a serious presidential candidate to say, okay, now you've got an elected National Working Committee, a NEC. Now I know that if I go to primaries in PDP, I win the ticket, I don't have any problem that come tomorrow, one court will say, no, that primaries. And so we're not yet at who, but we're laying foundation to make PDP a good and attractive platform. Because we also know that it's very likely APC is going to implode. It's just a law of nature, where you have so many people in the same party
vying for too few positions. It's called inflation.
Definitely something is going to happen. And when it happens, we must have, by that time, have resolved our issue and have a platform that somebody knows and says, well, if I go and run on PDP, I'm not going to have any issue of litigation because they've crossed our path. But if we make the mistake now and take an action that makes us vulnerable, then we have a problem. So that is why, yes, it is one of the reasons why we're trying to address this, to make the party attractive for any serious candidate who wants to run for president or any serious candidate who wants to run for governor or National Assembly or State Assembly. We need to address these knotty issues now.
On that note, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles.
It's been absolutely brilliant having you on the program. Senator Bukola Saraki was the former Senate President and former Governor of Kwara State, and he is the one heading the Reconciliation Committee in the PDP. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.